turn it over to you, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming this morning. We have a nice, intimate group. I would love for this to be interactive, meaning you guys participate, ask questions. There's no formality here. I'm not a particularly formal guy. And that way it'll be more fun for me, which is what's most important this morning. So I'm hoping everybody here, who's contractors? So who's not, so you're not a contractor? Oh, okay, that works. So raise your hand, be proud. There we go. Any utilities or programs or manufacturers or curious onlookers? Okay, good. What do you guys do?
I'm a hub staff.
Okay, yeah. And you guys back there? Hi, Desiree. Nice meeting you again. What's that?
I started a program staff.
Okay. What's your name?
David Freeland.
Hello, David. And you?
National Provider of Training.
Oh, nice. So you do your own stuff?
Yeah, so I work with DOE and we work with the EPA. We do all the cohorts.
Is the DOE and the EPA going to exist tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not even worried about that.
All right. Okay, good.
It's just money's got put here for now.
All right, good. So this is mostly addressed towards contractors who are trying to do a better job. This is just one man's opinion. Most of it works. I gave this presentation twice last year, once here in Saratoga and once at, where was the the BPA National Conference last year? Say again? No, the national one last year.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, Minneapolis, that's where it was. Right, so I was there too. And then I added to it, I continually try to make this kind of stuff better. So it's not, if you've been before, any of you guys seen the sessions before? Okay, the Gates is back there, good. All right, so a little bit about me, very little bit about me. You could read all this stuff, but basically I've been in the trades for over 40 years. I started as I was the plumber, I was the electrician, I was the dumpster diver, and you can see by that picture I'm still the dumpster diver. I like tinkering with stuff, and Adam, who's one of our team members, he can testify to that. This is a class we recently taught to some students in Mount Vernon. We were fortunate enough to get a grant from NYSERDA to teach heat pump installations to students from disadvantaged communities. And this was a group, like I said, from Mount Vernon, and a bunch of these guys got jobs afterwards. In fact, we hired one personally, at Healthy Home. So that was really fun. I started out as a carpenter and as like a plumber type of guy, and then I built this company called Brenner Builders where at its peak we were doing about $30 million a year. We had about 60 employees. But then I got tired of doing the unnecessary for the ungrateful. And I was like, I'm out of this. I had started Healthy Home about 10 years before I said I'm out of this. And just for my love of building science, et cetera, and kind of spreading the gospel. I got a lot of stuff that's like packed into this little head, and this little head, I'm on the back nine right now, maybe even the fourth quarter. So I'm trying to get as much of this information out to the people who are going to be doing this for the next 50 years. So that's kind of my goal here. All right, so I'm going to use a bunch of terms interchangeably, like career ladder, skills ladder, training. All of this stuff is combined to help make you and your employees do the right job, right? One of my mottos is, if I offend anybody by what I'm about to say, I'm sorry. But, what can I tell you? One of our mottos at Healthy Home and in how I teach is that we don't want to be like all the other assholes out there, right? Meaning we want to be better than what is the typical HVAC guy. or girl, and I use guys and girls interchangeably, and we want to be better than the typical insulator or air seal or whatever. And if you're sitting in these chairs, I'm thinking that you don't want to be that typical person either. So I know that I'm preaching to the choir when I say that. And in order to do that, to help our employees, our team members do better for our customers, do better for the environment, do better for the climate, there are certain kind of rules we follow. And there are going to be people, one thing in our business that we are comfortable with is that, we can't outsource somebody physically going into a house and installing a heat pump or putting in insulation. I mean, AI is going to have to be really, really good to have little robots get into the house and pull out the insulation and say hello to the homeowner and set up the tarps and do all that. I mean, I don't see that in the next few lifetimes, but what do I know? So it's nice for job security for our team members. It's nice as business owners to know that that kind of can't be subbed out and it can't be bought, and it's not let's hope it's not a commodity, right? So our team members, people who are actually executing this work, and by executing it, I'm mostly talking about the people who are pulling out the insulation, putting new insulation in, taking out an old condensing unit, putting in a new heat pump. I'm mostly talking about those people, but I'm also talking about the person who answers the phone, right? Person who might take a complaint, not that we ever get complaints in the business, right? That kind of thing. So let's talk about why you need a formal training program and career ladder. And I use the word formal like organized, thought about, not when I get around to it, we'll do that. Right? Because when we are all too busy in this room to get around to something, it needs to be planned. So what are some of the advantages of planning this stuff? Well, in terms of talent acquisition, which is a fancy way of saying hiring, people want to know. It's a different generation than when I started out in this business. A lot of our team members, what's in it for me? Which is okay, but you need to be able to answer that question, right? Am I going to be removing insulation for the rest of my career? Right? I don't want to be doing that the next 20 years, right? And that ties to, giving an understanding of this career ladder of where you can go and your skills ladder. Being honest, right? There are some people that just don't have the skill set to do anything other than be in the field. Right? It's just not everybody is wired to be a manager of people. And once you're managing somebody other than yourself, you are now a manager. Some people just don't have that skill set. We have some people, Adam knows who I'm talking about. He's a guy about my age. All he wants to do is spray foam. He doesn't want to manage people. He wants to spray foam, and that's great, because we got plenty of foam to spray, and that's what he enjoys doing. Right? So you got to be able to tie that to what's your, as a team member, what's your personal goal? Where do you see yourself in 4 or 5 years? We have some company standards that are written. You're going to see a theme here that, like, if it's not written and it's not visual and it's not presented, it doesn't exist, right? So if you go back to the warehouse and you say to Matt or Andy, this tool is broken. You don't even say that. You don't even show them the tool. You say this tool is broken. What's the likelihood that that tool is going to get fixed? It's pretty much zero. Unless there's somewhat of a process for that. You put it in this bucket. You send Andy an email. You do this to Matt. If it doesn't exist, if it's not in writing and there isn't a process, key here being followed by all, and it's not easy, right? How many people in this room manage other people? Raise your hand. So that's the vast majority. Is it easy to manage people? Is that the most difficult part of our jobs? I mean, there's not, because you got to deal with personalities and you got to deal with, I don't feel well and my girlfriend broke up with me and the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl and all that stuff. It's not easy. But so you have to be able to take these processes, which we're going to get into, and make sure that they're followed by all. Another good thing about having a formal program is that you reduce callbacks. The minimum, I think Hal does it. Does Hal do a little spiel on how much a callback costs? Is that Hal who does that?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
We're all aware of it.
Right. And so what in your organization, what do you say is the minimum cost of a callback? Do you have a number for that?
I would probably, what we do with a vast amount of services, so
Right.
range.
Right.
I would probably say at minimum it's over $500.
Yeah, right. I think the number that we say is about $1,500 because it's not only you sending somebody out to do it, and that time, who said that?
Lost revenue.
Lost revenue. Yeah, what's your name?
Billy.
Hey, Billy. Yeah, it's lost revenue, lost opportunity. While you're doing that, you're not doing something else. Callbacks are a pain in the ass. And we've done, I have to say at Healthy Home, a really good job of reducing that callbacks. That's a whole other spiel, but part of it has to do with having a process that you follow. Having a process at the end of the job that you follow to reduce those callbacks, right? So that's, again, a process that's followed by all. And how do you measure that? Well, we actually measure it every week. We look at what were our callbacks that week. We have a goal. Listen, as a business owner, I want the callbacks to be 0. But as we all know, there are callbacks where no matter what you did, that particular customer is calling you back for something. That's just the way that they're wired. So 0 is an unrealistic expectation. And we're in the expectation management business, right? So 0 is an unrealistic expectation. So I know that we want to have, 20% or less of callbacks, which is still a big number. And when you have a process, you're increasing profitability. Because hopefully every one of your team members is following that process, which you feel as the business owners or as the manager works for what your program is. And it also increases customer satisfaction. Okay. Okay, this is supposed to be working. Let's try old school. There we go. Okay. Throughout your training implementation journey, does anybody in this room have like a formal training process for their team members? Raise your hand. Okay, so most of you don't. And that's what we're trying to help with, right? Most of you don't. Okay, but remember that perfect is the enemy of done. That's not an easy concept it's an easy concept to understand, it's not an easy concept to follow. I am guilty of this. Like Adam will see me up in my little mad scientist laboratory up there and I'll be working on something and working on something and working on something to demonstrate how electrons flow, and I have to take a step back and say, is this good enough? So you gotta actually be able to see, the forest through the trees or the trees through the forest, whatever that's called, right? If you go for perfection, it's not going to happen. Or you're going to sacrifice the message that you're trying to get out there. So perfect is the enemy of done. And this thing still isn't working. Okay. There we go. This is the hardest thing. This is the hardest piece of what you're going to see today, is budgeting the time to actually do this stuff. It ain't easy, right? It's not easy to say you're out there and as a business owner, you might be working from 7 to 7 and you don't have the time. And then your guys are in the field and they get to the shop at 7:30 and they got to get this last, this roof blown in with loose fill, et cetera, et cetera. You gotta make the time for this. So we budget about 100 hours annually of training for our team members. But if you can't do 100, let's do 40. 40 is less than an hour a week. Now, the way we do our math at Healthy Home between vacations, holidays, sick days, and training days, of the 52 weeks of a year, we only have per man, again, per person, sorry, 46 working weeks. And if you go back to the office, or you think in your brain, that's probably not too dissimilar for everybody else in this room. So to squeak in 100 hours or 40 hours, it ain't easy. But what you can do is, you can do 3 to 8 hours a month. Like, if you go and you say to yourself 100 hours, that is a daunting number. So let's break it up a little bit. Let's say, all right, can I commit to 3 hours, 3 hours a month? Little like, what do they call those? Toolbox talks, right? Can I commit to that? Can I commit to 30 minutes a week or up to 2 hours a week? Can I do that? And when I say I, you is the implementer for this training. And it's going to be easier to dedicate the time that you have and to take, when you're training your employees, you're paying for them. It costs you money, it costs you opportunity, and it costs you X amount of dollars per hour. But if you tie it to a skills ladder that says, Joe, I know that you want to get paid as a Tech 2, you're now getting paid as you want to get paid as a senior tech, you have the experience, but you're still a junior tech because you haven't demonstrated to me that you haven't done X, Y, and Z. I guarantee you that if this guy is motivated, and if he's not motivated, maybe you don't want him working for you, that if he's motivated, he's going to find the time to do that training and to demonstrate that skills to you. So a lot of this training needs to be tied back to a skills ladder or a career ladder, right? That makes it more tangible. That makes it more of, if you do this, you will get that. Does that make sense? Okay. Some of the stuff we do, you want the team member, the employee, to have skin in the game. What does that mean? Skin in the game means that it's not a one-way street. We're not paying them to do all of this training. So for instance, we will send a book out and say, okay, for you to get this next level as part of it, you need to read this book and report back on it, right? And then just tell me what you read, tell me what your thoughts were, tell me what you think of it. Something where they're taking some of their own time and saying, I'm dedicated to my personal growth and my growth in the company. Does that make sense? Okay. And then when you're exhibiting, this is a little bit more tech-oriented, but when you're showing somebody how to do something, find out the champions. Find out in your company who is the best at dense packing cellulose, who is the best at doing an ERV, who is the best at doing loose fill cellulose, and have those people help train the newer people, right? Because I'm the boss, right? So according to everybody else, I'm the guy. All I do is I make phone calls and I write myself big checks, right? So how about, I don't know if they want to hear it from me, but what about the people who they're working with on a day-to-day basis? So find those champions who do that work and have them help you train the others. Any questions on that? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Have you had any rules of thumb or experience? Obviously experience, started talking, but employees having skin in the game versus like on the clock training. You know, we're paying you to be in the classroom versus I need to task you to have some investment in yourself, and both of those things matter.
I have, yes, I do have experience with it. And a few years ago, I used to give these every other week Thursday night or Wednesday night. Hey guys, I'll buy you pizza. Come sit down and let's talk about something. And it was the same 3 or 4 guys. Adam was one of them who would show up. And
Given that class.
what's that?
I said I've given
Right.
that class.
So like, here's some free pizza, but I want to see that you're investing in yourself. And the unfortunate thing is the ones that showed up, you were able to assess, but you probably knew that already, that they were dedicated to improving their career and dedicated to your company. But the ones who you really wanted to show up weren't showing up. The ones who needed the most amount of improvement weren't showing up. So it's a good test to see if, who wants to advance and wants to do better for themselves. And we didn't have much success with it. And I'm like, it takes you, for any of you guys have taught any of this stuff, to discuss a training for an hour, for me, it probably takes 8 hours to prepare it. Because I want to make sure that everything is right, and I don't want to stumble, and I want to make sure that if I need these 3 demos, that the demos are right. It's a little bit of the perfection is the enemy of done, but I also don't want it to be a total shit show. Right? I want to be prepared because people are spending their time to be there. It better be right. Question?
Yeah. People often ask the question of how much does it cost and how much training money you're paying to train your people. And the thing gets into, what if I train them and they leave? But what if you don't train them and they stay? That's going to cost a lot more in the long run.
Training is expensive, but it's more expensive now to train somebody new. That's the way I look at it. Right now, we're trying something new with we've just hired a block of 4 employees, full-time hires. And they're spending 6 weeks with me and a couple of other guys in our company so that when they hit the field, they know significantly more. What we used to do is we used to train them for about a week. And then they would hit the field, and I'm sorry to pick on you, Adam, but then Adam, as the team leader, he would have to spend his time in like, this is how you use a drill, this is how you put caulk in a caulk gun, this is how you air seal. That's not, it can be frustrating for Adam, but it also decreases profitability. So what we're trying to do now is do a lot of that up front. Now, when you do this in a lab, and there's a picture of our lab, our training center here. We have 3 different areas that we train in terms of physical spaces. You could make the mistakes, and you're not going to have a homeowner. If you get caulk on a rug in our training facility, who gives a crap? You get caulk on a rug in somebody's house, that's a freaking problem. So I'm not sure I answered your question other than to say, we feel like that investment in training is worth it to us. There is that fear, and it's a legitimate fear, that you train this person, and it's happened to all of us in this room, and then they go out and they go work for somebody else for another $1 or $2 an hour. I feel like that might be our fault as business owners because we haven't developed an environment where they feel like they can advance and they feel like, but what's hard to do, listen, this is, for the physical work that we do, this is a young person's game. They don't have the experience of working for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other employees before to know how good they have it here. And I will tell you this, in my 40 years, I had my first employee when I was 19 years old. I'm 62. So that's over 40 years. I would say almost without exception, when I bumped into that employee that left, not somebody who I fired, but somebody who left on their own to get a better job or to try it by themselves, have come up to me and said, Kevin, I should have stayed with you, man. I didn't know how good I had it. I didn't know how good of a company it is. So, but one of our rules generally is if you leave, you're gone, because I don't want them to see, like, we're going to train you. You're going to try working for somebody else for $2 an hour more, and then Uncle Kevin will take you back. Right? That sets a bad precedent. Right? So we, generally speaking, don't do that. If somebody moves and then moves back, that's a different scenario. Did I answer your question? Did you have a question?
Yeah, so
basically, we said it just like we do our training for our field guys.
Yep.
What we've noticed is by setting up a certain way, we've shown it as a career
Yep.
rather than a job.
Yep. Correct.
We're showing up because of a career.
I hope so.
The guys are not showing up because they're just there to collect a paycheck.
That's it.
And this is when I have to start profiling my employees and going, is it worth me dedicating more time to it? Do they have a goal to make this a career? Or are they gonna be the rate jakes that jump from me to somebody else?
Yep.
You were just arguing. It happens all the time.
Yeah. It's,
So we have to make the environment atmosphere for our employees to want to stay here.
right.
And you're trying with pizza and stuff, but some people, they're too greedy and that's not enough.
It's a very, very, listen, and the one thing that I know for sure is that I don't know a whole bunch, right? I am constantly learning. And you also have generational challenges. When I first worked for somebody, if my boss said to me, paint this panel here blue, I didn't ask why. I didn't know what kind of social justice was important for that. You know what, boss? You said paint it blue. I'm going to paint it blue. And then he comes back and says, you know what? Paint it red. Yes, boss. I'm going to paint that red. I'm not going to ask him why. It's different now. It's different now. And I don't know why. I mean, I think COVID had a lot to do with it, where people were sitting home and getting paid to play video games in their parents' basement. Right? It's just different. I don't know. I don't know why. Right?
So the new people you bring in for training, how do you have them have skin in the game?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm thinking about the 4 people that are coming in now. One of them, okay, so if they don't use the word career in their initial interviews, we don't even hire them, right? We don't hire somebody who says, I'm looking for a job. And it has to be their words. Because if I say to you, are you looking for a job or are you looking for a career? What are you going to say?
Career.
Right. I'm going to tell Hal, by the way, that you said that to me. But no, you're looking for, of course, they're smart enough to know that they should use the word career or job. But if I don't hear that word career, and if they don't buy into our why, like our company mission is, improving your family's health and comfort while saving our planet. That's our company mission. You know, we need to assess from them, is that why you're here? Because if that's why you're here, you're in the right place. If you're here, I'm going to tell a stupid story, okay? It's one of these business fable things. So there's this guy, they're building the railroads in the late 1800s, and the president of the railroad, anybody know this stupid fable?
Who's building
Well, this guy, they're building the railroad. Elon Musk is building the railroad in the late 1800s. No. So they're building a railroad in the late 1800s, and the president of the railroad is going to celebrate as they're just finishing up, and there's Joe is the president of the railroad, and David is just a guy banging the spikes into the railroad, and he sees the president's trolley pull up, and he's like, "Oh my God, John, that's you! I didn't know that you were the president. We started out 20 years ago banging spikes together. How did you become the president?" And John's answer is, "Well, you went to work for $1 a day. I went to work for the railroad." So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the people who are going to work for the railroad. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't want to pay them a fair wage. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but when people get in an uproar about minimum wage is so high, like we haven't paid somebody minimum wage, I mean, since the creation of it, I've been paying people, right? So, but we pay people, I think, a fair wage. I try really hard at developing a good company culture, a place that's fair. A safe space is really important, and it's really important when you're training. You need to be able to create a space where somebody's not afraid to be wrong or ask a question of how do I do that, or wait. Kevin, I don't understand that word. John, I don't understand that word. Tell me what that means. That's really, really important in good training, is creating that safe space so they feel free to make a mistake. Another reason why we do a lot of this in the office and not at somebody's home. Because at somebody's home, between the cameras, and I know Adam, again, has seen it, I've been in too, where people are like literally, you're putting in a heat pump and your back is breaking and and the guy's literally, oh shit, I didn't, the guy's literally over your shoulder. I mean, we've all had customers like that. There you go, just yesterday. All right. Any other questions? Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm thinking about my training, and how I've offered training.
Jeff, you're at NEEP?
I'm at NEEP.
Okay.
But this is in my previous life.
You had a previous life?
Yeah, dozens. And so is using attic opportunities, and I can see that.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again?
Like using opportunities when you're weatherizing the attic or for some one-on-one training.
Yep.
But it would be at the house, but whether that can be considered part of the training budget is having a more senior staff person working.
Such a great question. And so we are in the process of, and it seems like we're always in the process of, having some of our people be more like business owners, which means if the job is more profitable, you make more money. Like, Adam, have you done some Empower jobs? Do you love those Empower jobs? Okay. Where Adam is getting, Adam, you can kick me in if I'm picking on you too much. All right. Where it's like, hey, you get this done at a certain time. This is how much money we have. This is your share of it. So he has skin in that game.
What happens 2 weeks later when there's a callback?
There's another strategy for that. But, right, because that's the risk, right? That they're rushing through it. But to answer your question about the training, one of the things we're implementing is when Adam is training a new person, first of all, we've set up that person well enough that there isn't going to be he's not going to come on the job and say, what's that paper-looking stuff that you're spraying through that hose in somebody's, what's that called, attic? Is that what, you know what I mean? So, but there's a training bonus at that point. Because not everything could be done in a lab, right? Even though I think we've done a pretty good job of setting up demos, which you'll see some pictures of, there is some training, a lot of training that has to be. In fact, even though we do some role playing, how do you greet a customer? You put your booties on first, you roll out the tarps, you do that, but until you do that with a real customer, there's some training in that. So what we want to do is we want to be able to promote that behavior, and then that helps. So without penalizing them. So because when I'm training Matt, I'm taking time away from managing other guys or physically running the hopper. I want to be compensated for that because I know, but if I'm a real company guy, I know that my investment in Matt one day is going to pay off, because if I'm getting paid by the job or I'm getting my job bonuses, Matt's going to help me get that bonus. And that needs to be conveyed. And it needs to be understood, right? It needs to be, hearing it and listening it are two different things. But once I, as the team leader, understand that my investment in Matt is really going to pay off in 2-3 weeks. Now, I may come back to my boss and say, this Matt guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, and we, and so we need that feedback, because that Matt's performance has a direct economic and spiritual effect on me. I don't want to come back and have to say to my boss, hey, the job ran long because Matt sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's that delicate balance. But I'm trying to give everybody, I want to set up everybody for succeed. If Adam comes, and I'm saying Adam only because Adam's here, right? If Adam comes back and we didn't set him up for success because the person, we call them the healthy home specialists that do evaluations, if they miss something, I'm pissed off. I'm not pissed off at Adam. I'm pissed off. Dude, you've been in 87,000 attics. How do you miss that? And this is why I don't talk to the guys too much about that, because I would say it just like that. I need to be a little bit more sensitive, right? But the bottom line is, dude, how did you miss that? What were you thinking? Because that's a direct effect on Adam's performance. Okay. And I'm not yelling at anybody here, right? This is my passion that's coming out. I know, I can see that.
Performance sensitivity training.
All right.
Here's one, you just speak.
Okay. So what are your needs? And here, again, you'd like to have every process for everything you do in a perfect world. Well, perfect worlds don't exist. And let's follow the 80-20 rule. What do you do 80% of the time? Well, at Healthy Home, we know that we put in heat pumps, we do loose fill cellulose, we do dense pack garage ceilings. This is what we do 80% of the time. We do dense pack exterior walls, we do air sealing almost 100% of the time, we do rim joists, we spray foam the attics, we do side attic walls, we do whole house fresh air systems, ERVs, did I say that already? I don't know. We do bath fans. There are those outliers where we'll do a little something here and a little something there, but those are outliers, and hopefully we've trained our people well enough where they could use that gray matter between their ears, and based on what they know, can figure it out. And based on we have some very good people, like, a different Matt, that Adam feels comfortable calling. Matt, I can't figure this out. Or call me, or call John, or call other people to help figure it out. But let's say, what does your company do 80% of the time? And tie that again back to the career and the skills ladder. As part of it, now maybe as a production manager, they need to be able to figure out and do 100% of the things. But on the skills ladder, which I'll show you in a bit, you don't need to be able to do everything. Certainly at a junior tech or an apprentice level. But let's focus on what we do 80% of the time. Billy. What does your company do?
Spray foam and HVAC.
Okay, where are you out of?
Utica, New York.
Okay, good, so you're not a competition. So you're in Utica, New York, which is basically the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, even worse, we're like 20 minutes south.
Oh boy.
Cooperstown, Richfield.
Cooperstown, all right. What do you do 80% of the time?
Spray foam insulation.
Okay.
For retros, we're talking spray foam insulation, whether it's basements, attics.
Okay, so if you were doing a training program, that's what you focus on, okay? That's, how do you set up a rig? How do you prep it? That's what you focus on. And you must have those oddballs where somebody wants you to spray foam a doghouse. I mean, I don't know, right?
Yep.
So make sure the dog is out, but then, don't put a whole lot of energy into that,
Sure.
right? Start with a simple spreadsheet, and you gotta get input. You have to get input from your team. I haven't been working out in the field. Like, I could do all that stuff that everybody else does, and at some point I did it, but I can't do it as well as Adam, or as Danny, or as, whoever else. I need input, right? And I forgot a lot of the stuff too, so you need input from your team. And you want to keep it short and simple. Now, that's not really what I meant to say here when I said KISS. Does everybody know what I'm supposed to say, what that really stands for?
Stupidly simple?
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid, or stupidly simple, right? But somebody told me I should not say that. So, that somebody isn't here. Okay. All right, so, no need to really focus on this, focus in, but what's the career level? I don't know if you guys could see it. This says apprentice, this is Tech 1, which now we're calling junior tech. What are the list of skills that need to be taught as an apprentice? What are the attributes? The attributes are very consistent, and they always start for us with core values. If your company doesn't have a written set of core values, that's the first thing that you should be doing. Because And a decision that we make, or if we have to reprimand somebody, or we have to compliment somebody, it's how does it relate to your core values? Dude, when you left a dirty Band-Aid on the master bedroom pillow, did that follow our core values? Right. Now, we never had that, but we had a guy who no longer works with us who left the blade of a utility, a box cutter on the bed. And there was a whole bunch of reasons about why that happened. And they all started with he wasn't following the process or the core values. Do you remember that, Adam? Yeah. Shh, could be here. Okay. Right? So you have skills to be taught. What do you need to do in 90 days to show us that you're ready to move from apprentice to Tech 1? What do you need to do that? What kind of skills are you going to get ready for the next level? And we have some required reading, right? Right now, new employees, within the first 2 weeks of training, they're getting their BPI building science certificate. And there's some homework there, right? That's where we're giving them the physical book, not the digital book. We're giving them that $100 book, and then we're paying for them to take the test. So there's $200 of hard money right there. Is that what the rates are? Whatever they are. Any BPI stuff? Whatever that is, right? Because we want to give them that background. Now, then, when they're up in that training academy, I am beating to death building science and thermodynamics. I am beating it to death. And then I tell them they have the magic formula to be able to answer any question that they come across. They're up in an attic, the team leader's not there, it's 140 degrees, they don't know whether to spray this wall or this wall. Well, the answer's clear. Building science plus core values is the right answer. That's it. Now, there may be 2 or 3 right answers, but if you follow those 2 things, it wouldn't be the wrong answer of where to spray that wall, right? And that's why we need to beat to death building science and core values. And this is not what this is about, but building science boils down to one statement. More goes to less. That's it. And then we expand upon that for...
Can you offer an example of how core values would affect something that has multiple answers in building science?
Sure. So I have a gable end of a house. I mean, they're tied together. Like, what am I spraying it with? Like, am I making the right, or I'm in a basement, right? Do I want to spray, my view, do I want to spray the rim with open cell foam? The answer is no, because it's subject to moisture. So we would only use closed cell foam there. But I only have in the truck a couple of low pressure open cell foam. So I'm not following the building science, and I'm not committed, that's one of our core values, and I'm not being honest or respectful to the customer if I spray that there. So that's not a great example, that's more about building science, but it's about knowing the building science and following the core values, which for us are passion, honesty, integrity, excellence, respect, and commitment. So, you know, respect means respecting yourself, respecting the customer, respecting the job that you do. So if you're following good building science, generally speaking, you don't have to. I'll give you an example. I know that good building science says to me I should crawl back into that attic and spray closed cell foam right there. I missed it. But I don't feel like putting on my Tyvek suit, starting up the rig, doing all that stuff, and going in there for a 1 foot square of foam that I missed. Well, now I'm not adhering to the core values on a whole bunch of levels. And I know that goes back to building science too, because building science says you should do that, but nobody's going to see it. Right? Nobody's going to know. I'm still going to make my CFM reduction number.
See, this is a perfect example. All right, so I'm from Syracuse. I moved to Connecticut. I work internationally. In Connecticut, what we have is this example of what he's saying. We have technicians up there spray foaming first 10 feet to the scuttle because we know all the petroleum in that problem inside of us from the corner and one.
Yep.
Just blow over it. Like
Yeah.
we're really, I'm done. I can get my reduction, get paid my CFM, and nobody's going nowhere
Right.
different.
And if I,
What we're finding out now is 4 years later, those homes are growing mold.
right, right.
Oops.
And if I ever found that,
Oh,
I would open up a can of ballistic.
that's
I
why
mean-
you get that at Connecticut.
Yeah, it would be bad.
They don't like.
Go ahead, Bill.
Read the example when you said that the guy knows he's not supposed to use open cell phone, but someone that open cell can't, so he uses the open cell phone. Core value would be stop what you're doing, back to the truck, come back to the shop.
That's exactly right.
Come back.
Because you're not,
Let the boss know, hey, we got the wrong
Yeah.
material.
now, are we going to be not so happy that he had to spend an hour coming back and an hour spraying and an hour? No. But did he make ultimately the right decision for the customer? Yeah. And we have literally in our training room, we have a mannequin that we dress seasonally. Sometimes when Adam wasn't there, we dressed him as him. Remember that? and occasionally I say, what would the customer think of that? Because none of us are in business, none of us are in this room if we didn't have customers. Whether you work for a utility or a program, you still have a customer. And without that customer, nobody's writing the checks to us. Your customer may be New York State, it may be the contractors of New York State, but we're all in this for a customer. So anyway, you go back to the spreadsheet and you list it. And you know what's fun? Well, fun for some. Like this is also a learning experience. Writing this stuff down, what do we do? What do we do 80% of the time? You know, that could be fun. And then this has changed a little bit, but it doesn't have to look like this. It won't look like this, but put it in writing or it doesn't exist. Now, let's focus on the first column, which was the one on the left. What skills do I need to teach at each of these levels? For an apprentice, in the first 90 days, they need to know this. And then they could move to Tech 1. Tech 1, for them to move to Tech 2, they need to know this. So they have to be able to execute all of these before they get to this level. And on and on and on. Right? So focus on that. You're not going to be able to, if you try to, I know there's some expression that I don't know about this, but if you try to get all of this in, just do little tiny things. If you know as an apprentice that something that the apprentice is going to be doing every single day, like loading the cellulose hopper, teach them how to load the cellulose hopper. Taking the tarps and rolling them out, how do you set up a tarp, you know, on the stairs? If you've never done that in real life, you know, then somebody's going to trip on those. You got to show them how to tuck it in. You know, show them those things. So there may be, you know, 10 things on the list. Show them 2 to start. You got to start somewhere. Don't come out and say, I need, before that apprentice moves up, they got blah, 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 they got to do 20 things. Because if you do just 2 more things now, that's 2 more than you were doing before. You got to start somewhere. Okay. Once you do the left-hand side, then you can start moving over to the right in developing your skills ladder. And so this is a thought process that you should have kind of immediately to help you work it through. And this is nothing other than an Excel spreadsheet with a couple of headers. Then you just fill it in, right? Start here, apprentice. What are the skills? What do I think that they need to have as an attribute? One of the top one on all of these you'll see is core values. We also hire, more about attitude than aptitude. If we get a young person and they are all about it and they want a career and they have that attitude, teaching them how to hold an impact driver or how to stuff cellulose into a wall is a lot easier. Or I should say, it's not that it's a lot easier, but it's teachable. Having somebody born with the right attitude, that's not so teachable. I've never been successful at that. And I've stopped trying. Quite honestly, if somebody comes in without the right attitude, then they don't get the chance to show us that they have the aptitude, or they can learn how to hold an impact driver the right way, or how to drive a, for those of you who have tried to teach somebody for the first time how to put in a 3-inch drywall screw with an impact driver, and you hear that, like, oh, I mean, it's painful. But then it's not painful at the end of the hour when they're click, 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 and it goes in nice and smoothly. You can teach them that, generally speaking. And one of the questions is, on an initial interview, is, tell me about the last thing you fixed in your house. And if they say nothing, I'm not really handy, I don't like tools, I don't know the difference between a screwdriver and a hammer, well, maybe that's somebody that you should, at least for a field job, should think twice about hiring. But if they say something like, well, the light switch cracked and I went to the hardware store and I bought a new cover plate and I fixed it, I mean, at least it shows that they're taking some initiative. Right. Okay. Remember, guys, if you have questions as I'm speaking, just ask up.
Is this shared with your staff?
Yeah. It's very important to share this because they need to know, absolutely, they need to know that this is what you're going for. You want to make more money? Well, then you need to graduate from an apprentice to a Tech 1 or junior tech, and then from a junior tech to a senior tech, and from a senior tech to a team leader, and then from a team leader to a production manager, or whatever it is. You want to make more money? Now, at each one of these levels, particularly a team leader, especially the way that we're going to be reworking this, you can make a lot of money as a team leader. Because now you're a manager, and that investment that you made in training Matt is going to pay off a lot. Yep.
So, based on what you just said, I'm assuming that your team leader is the one who gets that extra bonus, and the other guys on the team.
No, the other guys do too, but especially in the new one. But one of the complaints that we've got over the years is that the difference in money between being a team leader and, let's say, a senior tech was not great enough to take the responsibility of being a team leader. So now in our new and improved, which I don't think Adam has seen yet, what's that? You have or have not? Right. There's a big difference between team leader, because they're the ones who are going to drive that ship. And guess what? When they forget that closed cell phone and they have to go run back to the shop, that's costing them money. So we're hoping that they realize that in the morning, spend those extra 3 minutes, look at your list of materials, make sure you have it, get out of that shop as quickly as possible. So now the team leader is saying, guys, we don't have time to screw around here. Take that pallet of cellulose, take that bundle of caulk, and let's get the hell out of here and get to the job site. So yeah, now that difference is going to be much greater between team leader and the next person. Do you have a question, Matt?
I do. You have to start from somewhere.
Yeah. Well, in what regard?
In regard to the spreadsheet on the
Yes.
on the wall.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You got to start from somewhere.
Yep.
Do you have any tips or strategies or suggestions for implementing this very rigid, not rigid, but implementing structure where there wasn't necessarily prior? So we may be going to someone who viewed themselves as a team leader and having the very real conversation of, so if there's ladder, you're actually falling here.
Yes. That's a great question. Did everybody hear his question? Everybody? Okay. So So I have two answers to that. How do you do it? The answer is slowly. And especially if, so you had two sort of questions. How do you implement this is one question. The answer is slowly, and not, you don't open that faucet. You give it to them in drips and drabs because this is new. And again, here, you may take that list of 80%ers and pick one or two. And I have a slide on that later. You pick one or two and focus on that. Now, you say to somebody, okay, well, according to this set of skills, you're not a Tech 2, you're actually a Tech 1, dude. We had that situation with somebody in particular. And what we did was we said, okay, we're not going to cut your pay, but you have this amount of time to prove to us that you are, even though you're functioning as a Tech 2, that you are in fact have that skill set to be a Tech 2. Did that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah, it creates more questions, but
Go ahead. I mean, I'm here all day. No, right, yeah.
Yeah, just from personal experience, dealing with making a change or putting somebody in a spot in a list, so to speak, or a skill set, asking them where they fall on that list is most times people will be a little harder on themselves, I think, than kind of over bragging about themselves.
Yeah.
In a sense, they'll look inward and find the flaws, or say, look, that I realize now looking at this structure, I may be, needing more help in this area,
I agree with that, and that's why this is enlightening, right? This is saying, and we get feedback from this too, right? So we're going to say to somebody, in putting this together, I don't create this list, right? I mean, I have some input about it, but we'll go to other people and say, what do you think should be a skill set for Tech 2? And then Adam may come to us and say, you know what, guys, I know that you don't have this on the apprentice list, but every day the new guy has to do this, and you're not, and I don't see that on that list. Oh, okay. So I'm going to move on a little bit because we don't have that much, believe it or not. Okay. So now, like I said before, don't open the faucet, right? Take your top 5. If you can't do 5, do 1. Process needs to be in writing. This should be a script, or it's a process which becomes a script for a video for another day. And it's a flow chart is nice, nothing too detailed. You can't hand somebody this process and say, okay, do it. The process is an outline. And then that, and we'll see a slide on this later, that outline will become something that you review in a classroom setting or in a setting other than somebody's house, and then it needs to be reviewed at the house in the real life situation. Like I just said there, simple outline is best. Use plain English. Don't use big fancy words. Put the cellulose here, not procure the cellulose from the, you know what I mean? Like use regular English. A flow chart works well. Again, here I say ask for help. What ask for help means is that in putting this together, ask for the help for the people who are doing it. Ask for some suggestions. Is this really how you do it in the morning? Do you really back up the truck first and then get the forklift, or what do you do? How does that work? And we have some people in the organization that are resistant to change. As business owners, I hope that's not you, because everything changes and these processes will change. These processes may change because we find it necessary to buy it from a different distributor. So that 25-pound bag of cellulose now becomes 50 pounds or whatever it is, or the spray foam is different. You can't be afraid to make changes, and then you have to dance that line between making changes. Oh boy, here's our quarterly meeting. We got another 20 changes for a different process. Screw it, I'm just going to be doing it this way. So while you can't be afraid to make changes, you try not to do those unnecessarily, especially if it's a process that's being followed. Okay. There are a lot of resources that are out there. In the next slide, we'll go into that a little bit more. But you've got to be real careful of YouTube University. Anything that you want to be able to do, if you put in, you know, how do I change a carburetor on a 1930 Model A Ford with a jumper seat, you'll find that on YouTube. How do you know if it's the right way to do that? Because the guy on YouTube says it works for him, right? And he could be putting in that carburetor. Now, he doesn't show you that Model A Ford now doesn't start, but he showed you how to put it in a carburetor, right? So we have literally a curated list that I am updating constantly. I have it in a Google Doc. It's on my Google whatever, you know, tabs up top. And, you know, I say, what is the topic? Here's what I want to do. And then, particularly with the new students, I give them that list. And I say, or I will say, what this guy is telling you, I'm sure it's right. Anybody in this room know Brian Orr or know of him? Okay. So, you know, Brian Orr is a safe guy for anything heat pump or HVAC. The engineering mindset, if you want to know how something works, you know, but that list needs to be really curated by you so that they follow that and they just don't go on a YouTube vortex of finding stuff that makes absolutely no sense or is just 100% wrong. There's no credibility check, you know, in YouTube. You can post any video and, you know, now you're the expert, especially if you pretty it up and you have, you know, 1 million views. It doesn't mean it's right. And while I'm on that, I'm going to see that, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so just be wary of that. It can be an unbelievable resource, but it can also be unbelievably bad. So here are some other people that, you know, you could make these processes your own, but sometimes it's really, really hard. Not sometimes, it is always really hard to get started, to get that momentum and get going. So, like for instance, you're teaching a new guy how to use a blower door. Where would be the first place you would go if you wanted to know the process of how to do a blower door? Anybody?
Doorway.
What's that?
Doorway.
No, sorry. Like you want to know the process, that's a good place. Right. No, but you want to know the process of how do I set up a blower door? Right, you go to the manufacturer. You go to Minneapolis Blower Door, you go to, you know, the Energy Conservatory or Retrotech or whatever, and you look at their process. You know, one of the things that I think separates Healthy Home from a lot of other contractors, not anybody in this room, and I mean this sincerely, is we actually read the frickin' manual, right? So let's read the manual from the Energy Conservatory because they're the ones who have done the testing, and let's follow their process. Now you want to add some nuances to it. Let's say, hey guys, go in there and take your car keys and put them by the boiler switch so that you don't forget to turn the boiler back on. All right, Energy Conservatory probably doesn't have that in there, you know, how to do a blower door. So you add to that, you put it on your own letterhead. I think that carries some weight too. Don't just take the Energy Conservatory process and hand it to them, although that's a start. Let's take that and make it our own. But if printing that out and laminating it gets you there where there was no process before, start with that. And then maybe you want to explain why we're setting up the blower door in wintertime conditions. What does wintertime conditions make sense? Go a little bit deeper on that. That's making it your own. Why do you want to put your keys on the boiler switch? Etc. So there you have distributors, vendors, manufacturers, right? Everybody out there in the hallway probably has a manual of what they're selling. Go to your trade associations. Oops, I left the C out of BPA. Sorry. Right? They have processes that are available. Teaching organizations, ESCO, NATE, NCI. Has anybody ever been to the ESCO HVAR Excellence? I'm going there for the first time in a few weeks. I wonder if anybody has been there. I'll let you know how it is. Okay. And then your insurance companies, particularly as it goes to safety training. You know, they want you guys to be safe. Because when you ain't safe, it costs them money, which of course then costs us money. That's the way it works. But they're more than happy. Has anybody ever used their insurance company for safety training, or at least safety training references? Yeah. Say it again?
Driving.
Driving?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's. Anybody here have any cameras that? So we have vehicle tracking, but we're thinking of getting tracking that does a camera forward and a camera at the driver. Any of you guys have that here?
We have camera forward only.
Only. What do you use for that?
More or less for liability purposes.
No, what do you use? What program?
Oh, Verizon.
Okay. I'll ask if you don't mind. I'd like to know what that is. Okay. All right. But these are free. I mean, a lot of the distributors, they'll give you free stuff, and they may even give you some free training. You know, like Mitsubishi gives us some free training, a certain amount of hours per what you sell. Not all of this is free, but sometimes it's free with a membership. And all of these guys down here have some level of free training, and then some training that's extra. And insurance company stuff is usually for free. So I gave this similar presentation a year ago, but I don't like to sit still, and so I just wanted to focus on some stuff that I've played with over the last year. I've played with a lot with AI. Here are some highlights. It is not always correct. I don't know. I would not feel comfortable asking AI the answer on something, or how to do something, or a process, or a drawing, or whatever, if I didn't know something about it and was able to fact check. If you want to read a decent short book on how AI kind of works, this book by Ethan Mollick called Co-Intelligence is a really good book. I have no shares in oneusefulthing.org. He has a free newsletter that I think comes out-ish once a month. And then, of course, you get a paid prescription. He upgrades you, and you get one once a week. Really, really good, unbiased insight. He's a professor of something or other at Wharton, which is University of Pennsylvania Business School. Speaks in plain English, and that book was really helpful for me. And I read it just about this time last year, and I was like, oh, now I get it. And just a little bit of insight here is that it will, who here has some experience in using AI in business? And how do you use it, Jeff?
Mostly is to get an initial synopsis and
Yeah.
initial research investigation.
Yep, great way. I use it the same way. And tell me your name?
Jose.
Jose, how do you use it?
Yeah, we do training and plans, so it's basically looking resources and creating projects.
Yeah, so I think that those two ways are a good, so I have used it for an outline. I've also used it for saying, okay, I just used it last week for this. We wanted to set up a new series of email blasts to send to customers. All right, here's the outline, here's what I say, but can you check the grammar? And can you make it a little bit friendlier? And so helpful hint here, pro tip, talk to it as if you're talking to a human being. And what they call those prompts, you'll get better at prompting, and it gets better at using these large language modules. The way that AI works is it's only looking for the next word, or at least that's how Ethan says it works. It's only looking for the next word. So the more information you give it, if you guys come to my session tomorrow morning, I'll each give you $5. No, I have some AI generated, because that's a new one for me. A new one. It's not new principle for me, but it's about how you need to tie envelope work and heat pumps together so that you can make more sales. I have a lot of AI generated images in there, and it was just amazing that the better I got at giving it prompts, it got exponentially better in delivering what I wanted to deliver. In fact, that outline was laid out by AI. I eventually abandoned it, but it got me started. I don't know about you guys, but whenever you have a task, isn't the task itself so daunting? But then when you get started of it, you look at your clock next, oh shit, I've been at this for 4 hours. So it's a really good way to start if you know something, but do not, my advice, do not take it as gospel, because it ain't. It's not smart enough yet. It will get there probably really soon. That's my experience, but I've had a lot of fun with this. A lot of the all of the slide decks that I present during my training, and there's probably 30 to 40 of them in my initial 5 to 6 week training, 30 to 40 slide decks, not slides, there's thousands of slides. I never leave one unchanged. There's that change thing. I listen to a student's or an employee's question. I said, you know what, that's a great question. Let me answer it in this slide for the next class. I've generated some new images for that. So anyway, I have found it to be really, really helpful, but not gospel. It gets me started. Here's something else that I just started playing with, interplay learning. Anybody play with this at all? So what do you guys think of it? So explain, well, I'll explain it. Tell me if you think I explain it right. Interplay learning is a paid service where they have different modules of, let's say you want to be an HVAC technician, you want to be a carpenter, you want to be an electrician, I think they're big on solar now, and they take you through these modules. And the modules are visual. Some of them, which are really cool. Have you guys gotten the simulators yet?
I think we've used a few, but I haven't seen.
So some of them, I haven't bought one yet. It's actually virtual reality simulators. So to use a multimeter, you put on one of those, headset goggles, and I'm closing my eyes, but you're actually putting the probes of the multimeter in the right spot, in space. So I'm thinking for the younger kids and for kids like Adam, they would love that, because what do they do when they go home? They watch video games and TikTok, right? With no disrespect.
When you electrocute yourself.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's good. That's bad for business, right? So so I've started to play with it. I'm curious about your feedback, and I would never. I think it's a good place to start. I think it is not a substitution at all for physical learning and in-person feedback. It's a good place to start. I was hoping that could be maybe a substitute for some stuff, but I haven't found one yet that could substitute what we give them in person. What's your feedback?
So as a knowledge base,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's very good.
I would agree with you.
I've taken some of the modules.
Their instructors are pretty good, right? They're in the trades.
I've had a few employees that really furthered their own knowledge base using it.
In what pathway? Like what was their?
I speak to HVACs.
Okay.
Strictly heat pumps and HVAC.
Okay.
Where I've witnessed struggles with interplay learning is the whole skin in the game thing. You task somebody with something and you check on it a week or two later, and you see the same 3 people that always have skin in the game have logged however many thousands of points, and the others that don't want to go home and think about work, you don't get the same engagement.
Yeah. But what about if you tied that? What about if you said to them, dude, you have to finish this module in interplay learning or you're not getting a raise? What about then?
That's a great thought process. I look forward to exploring it more.
Okay. Because I think so it's enlightening in 2 ways, right? I want to invest in the people that see the worthwhile investment. I will give, my soul to those people. And then, it's also a way to filter out the I'm here for a paycheck people. Now, nobody's able going to run a business without having a few of the I'm here for the paycheck people. That's the reality of life. But I want to help that person advance their career that's part of my soul, that has some skin in the game. And were they clapping for me? Yes. And make sure that those are the people I want to invest in. So it kind of works both ways, right? You can see who really cares and who doesn't, and then at the end, you're not getting a raise unless you pass that module. What was
You
that?
have that offer. How's your pizza meetings going? It's still the same?
Oh, I stopped them about 3 years ago.
So the issue is not solved. It's not motivating the people to participate more, if they are now tied to the career path.
Yeah, that's becoming a motivator now. And then the part of...
So you do the pizza meeting now, you will have more people.
What do you think, Adam? What's that? I know you would, but I'm saying, do you think we would have more people than the 2 or 3 people that would show up typically?
Probably.
Yeah, I think we, there's, yeah, right. I think we would have a better result now, but so some of the stuff on the career ladder is going to be about you have to do it on your own. So I'm thinking about interplay learning as saying you need to do this on your own now. You did everything physically here, but I need to see that you pass that, the knowledge test, at the end of that.
I would agree that interplay learning would be probably more flexible in your entire team, trying to use that as that test to find out who's engaged and who's not. But frankly, when we did structured like Tuesday night, we're gonna have pizza night, we're gonna talk about this week, next week, that it also has to force everybody to be available on a Tuesday night to do that.
Yeah.
Some people just
Yeah,
aren't.
I get that too.
So the interplay learning at least allows them the flexibility.
Yep, and I like it for that as well. Let me just rip through a couple of these last ones. Oh, hands-on demos, right? Real important. So that's that's a real picture. I took that yesterday. This is my most recent mad scientist thing. I was having difficulty explaining how a contactor works and how you can take a 24-volt signal and power something that's 120. So I pulled out an old contactor I had and I made this thing, whatever, and it worked really well. Right? It worked really well on how to do this. But this is my most proud moment. This is you can't really see there, but this is I made for showing how reversing valve works, and how you send heat to one way and suction another way. So but it's all over the place, right? We got a bunch of Mitsubishi units. We have taken apart air source water heater. We talk a lot about heat exchangers, right? There's a radiator. Radiator's a heat exchanger. There's an old, we have an ERV hanging up there, a solar panel hanging up there, just a whole bunch of stuff. And again, here, you probably have that graveyard, particularly in the HVAC business, of old, we had the guys, these new guys, we took the old bags of cellulose that we ripped out of somebody's house, and they were in the dumpster, and they were removing it again to learn how to do removals, right? We have that ability because we have some of the old stuff that we've taken out. But hands-on demos, that is so much more of a powerful learning tool than reading about it in a textbook. You got to get, and I use the term guys for men, women, I don't care, or any whatever, just, like hands-on, get your hands dirty, right? Get them dirty. Come home, where when you blow your nose, it's not pretty, right? So, and then we have this training room. We have the warehouse where we have other stuff. And then we have, I think I have a picture of it, a little training house. Remember, perfect is the enemy of done. This is a written process, right? Whole house air sealing process. What do you do first? You set up the blower door as per the blower door setup guide process. So we're not listing the whole process there, we're giving them a flow chart, right? Set up the blower door. If you don't remember how to set up the blower door, then follow that process. Go on, you know, on and on and on. The processes have to be reviewed, explained in a formal setting, and then practiced and explained in real life. Right? You gotta be on the job site. And it's okay, you know, Adam, have you ever had a customer say to you, why are you teaching guys on my site? Good. Because I think owners will appreciate that it's a learning opportunity. Somebody asked that question before. You can't do a training dump. Right? You have to distribute this information slowly and with caution. This is going to be new. I don't need this process. I've been doing this for 10 years. Yeah, well, guess what? You've been doing it wrong for 10 years. Or I don't know how you've been doing it wrong. But I want to make sure that Team A and Team B and all the way through Team Z are all doing it the same. Because you're all wearing the same Halco shirts or Healthy Home Search or whatever it is. Right? You're all wearing those. You all need to be consistent ambassadors of what we do here. Take it slow, and somebody asked me before, you know, do you distribute this to the team? Yes, this information is public. Okay, so now you have a few of these processes right. Now you can kick it up a notch by doing like a video, Google Slides, something. Start somewhere. Start with a spreadsheet. It's boring visually, doesn't present well, but now you need to add a little personality to it, either by presenting it or by doing some of these stuff. There's also, we use a learning management software that helps us a lot, but it's not perfect. There are how-to guide software. Tango is incredible for like office workflows, if you guys haven't played with that. But really for office work, like how does this software work? Tango is a great way to explain how this particular program would work. I'm not going to play it now, but we have a few, not enough. This is my partner, John, and we made a YouTube video of how you create a hole and patch it over if you're doing dense packed cellulose from the inside. Hands-on training, right? So this is our training house. Could anybody guess here which bay doesn't have insulation? Just curious. That was by design. This is on wheels. Got a whole bunch of cool stuff in it. This is doing a little heat pump stuff here. This is actually somebody else's training. This is the inside of our training house. This is, again, in our training room. Follow the shit out of your processes. That's it. I mean, it's got to be followed by all. Or if it's not being followed, and when there's a callback, did you follow the process? Reinforce that. Following by all is harder than creating the processes themselves. This is some learning management software. If you guys send me an email, because Adam, you brought me my cards, right? All right. I'll send you the slide deck, although I think I have to post it somewhere. This is what learning management software looks like. So we have these course contents. We're just getting around to tying that to our skills ladder. So this takes a lot of time. But once it's there, it lives there. And then it updates. You know, we have it set up so it can update a new process by itself. And then there are quizzes also in the learning management software. Keep it simple. You need to get people engaged. Stay out of the weeds, right? So like that blower door said, follow the blower door process, not take it out of the bag. Set up the house for winter conditions. Shut down the boiler. Have the best people, have your champions go first. I would much rather have Adam explain something to our people than me. Okay, real quick. Speaking of career ladder, it can help answer these questions. What does my future look like here? Can I make more money? What's my next move? Where will I be in, can I still live in my parents' basement and collect unemployment insurance? Right? We're not a huge fan of that. So that's our career ladder. Tough to read, but it starts at apprentice, junior tech, senior tech, team leader. How you get there, here are the outline of the skills that are there. And then there are offshoots here of like, you know what, I've reached a senior tech, here are some other opportunities, and same thing as a team leader. It's visually pleasing. It helps explain, particularly to new hires, what's happening. And it says in black and white, you can't be this until you pass that.
Kevin,
Yes.
the software you were using, is that what you're using to kind of gauge them doing this, or are you having like interaction with the team leader to see how this person is doing this task?
We are 10 days away from having that working that way. We have a new operations manager in our organization, and that was kind of number one on his list, is making this part of the learning management software so that everybody has their login and they can always see, where am I? What do I need to complete? It's a great question. Thank you.
Which LMS are you using?
LearnDash, which is from my understanding, a WordPress-based software.
How much of a bottleneck is there once you get your team leader?
How much is a?
So a company can only have so many team leaders, and that's it.
I mean, yeah, it all filters down to. I mean, we have it on a spreadsheet for leads. It all comes down to how many leads are we getting. Then we convert it. Then how much work do we have to execute this work? How many team leaders do we need, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, team leaders is where we currently are right now in the weakest shape. But I feel like of the class that we just hired, because Andy and Matt did such a great job at hiring, that we have future team leaders there.
So team leaders have gone other places or retired out, or?
It's a great question. I mean, if they have a certain skill set, they could sell work better than nobody else if they have a selling skill set because they've done it. But we also have, growth opportunity that we're going after, and that the team leader will have some experience that will help us grow. So, I torture myself with these questions every day. But I know that if I didn't have this, I'd have no shot of executing it. And that's it. So we just finished on time, maybe a minute over. Guys, feel free to reach out. Like I said, or I started off, I got a lot of useless information in this brain. Some of it is useless. I'm happy to share it. And thanks a lot. Appreciate it.